We are Sat Chit Ananda, that is existence, consciousness, and bliss. The message I share today is for those who truly seek this truth. So, today we will talk about this quote which is famous in Zen tradition known as the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon itself. Basically, it is referring to the fact that there are pointers which are shared in spirituality. Do not confuse this language or the spiritual pointer for the truth itself. The truth here can be defined as the absolute reality or even happiness for that matter. So, we will explore this today in 5 steps. So, in the first step, we will look at the reflection trap. So, the reflection trap is you have the moon in the sky and there is a pond on which the light of the moon is reflecting and you are looking at this reflection. You are quite content looking at this reflection, and now this reflection is nothing but those specific activities, relationships, or objects, substances, whatever it can be that gives you the satisfaction in life. But we often forget that what you're looking is the reflection and not the actual moon itself. Of course, there is a temporary joy which arises with each of these activities, and accordingly, we will plan our next event which is going to fulfill this void, a temporary void, through the happinesses that is reflected in these activities. But the moon, that is the source of happiness itself, is not in that pond. The true moon, the absolute happiness, is always there. It's always above us and it's shining in every event we get into, and not just those select activities or reflection in the pond. So, in spiritual terms, the moon here is our true nature and it is free from identities, beliefs, and our stories. And in this context, awakening means seeing beyond these reflections. The true joy, the absolute peace, is in recognizing our true identity, which the finger is pointing to, and not just in the reflections. Of course, we will discuss more about the finger itself, how we are stuck staring at the finger and not what it is pointing to. In step 2, we say that do not worship the pointer itself. When the reflections no longer satisfy us, we seek the pointers. So pointers can come in form of teachers, it can be in scriptures, books, or even the meditation practices or communities you join. All of this are supporting you as a pointer. So sometimes we get stuck in the loop of believing these activities, these involvements. You go to the event, you come back, and you are stuck in this loop believing this event or activity itself is the truth. It is only there to support you. The master is only there to support you. Have reverence to the master, the pointer which is being shared, but the absolute truth needs to be embodied by you. We become attached to traditions, methods, or even the personalities themselves, and we start liking the style more than the truth it is pointing to. But the purpose of every pointer is to let us know what is it that lies beyond the finger itself, the pointing itself. And in step 3, we need to identify the sneakiest ego, the spiritual ego basically. So this particular ego, which disguises as spiritual ego, it takes the credit for all the languages, all the pointers, and we may believe we are progressing because we can quote the wisdom and teachings, or we can sit for long hours in meditation, or even we use spiritual language quite fluently and eloquently. This is nothing but another reflection where you find happiness in quoting the spiritual scriptures and having the sense of attachment with the community. So, of course, not every scenario needs to be an egoic way of looking at it. There is a subtle difference when you truly see. Of course, you can be in the community of seekers and you can still remain awakened without the ego. That said, mostly especially when you get offended when somebody is talking ill about your master, about the way you practice it. So you are not offended, there is no reaction. You might choose to respond to it in a very balanced manner. But that said, if you're reacting to an offense about your belief systems or your community, it's still a reflection you are content with. So just have a open mind to examine your own spiritual pointers. Is it independent of the finger? Are you looking at the absolute reality itself? Another subtle trap is believing that you are more awakened than others. It might be true, you might be seeing the reality as it is now. That said, there will emerge a compassion, true compassion, where you are not leaving your place. Your state of being is well maintained, but you do not look down on the others who are still seeking that absolute truth in reflections, in those select activities, substances. So, the spiritual ego, at least in most cases, is the last finger that people mistake for the moon itself. True seeing happens when even the identity of a seeker is dropped. And in step 4, we are seeing things as it is, seeing what is in this moment, everything as it is. So, when the reflections are dropped, when you're truly making a move, making a turn to look at the moon itself, you see the reality. You don't need the finger or the pointer at this point anymore. And what remains is not new, it was always there, just that your attention was focused on this subtlest form of ego, or the spiritual ego, which gradually fades away. The more you look at the moon directly, the more you see, yes, there is a difference between the language which is pointing to the truth and the truth itself. Henceforth, awakening is a recognition of that which was always there. It is not a new achievement, because achievement is something which is somewhere else, and we make a distance, we travel a distance in space and time to reach there, then we achieve something. So in this case, it's a contrary, it's the other way around, it's always there. Of course, there is some space and time involved, there is some time and energy involved for you to let go of your existing beliefs and the holding on to the pointers. Once you do that, it's always there. So it's just a recognition and not an achievement by itself. Here, pointers and teachings can guide us to that absolute edge. But beyond that, no imagination or no understanding, mental understanding whatsoever can help us realize this. And in the last step, we see the limitation of this analogy. Every analogy has its own limitations. So in this analogy specifically, the limitation is moon here is an object. So when we take out the moon, what we're actually looking into, what the master is pointing into, is not an object by itself, right? So it's good to understand, for the mind at least, for the one which is logically sound, we try to use analogy here. The reflection, which is nothing but those select activities which can give you happiness, and the moon is a source of absolute bliss itself. Now here, it's not an object, you cannot find this like an object. This is where we talk, where the pointers can take you to the edge of discovering this absolute happiness, but beyond that you have to drop the pointer as well, the language as well. So in truth, there is no moon that you have to find, or no fingers to look at. All these pointers simply dissolve when you recognize this pure awareness, this space. In this analogy, it's the moon, but it is pointing to that aware space, the infinite space, which can never be found as an object. It can simply be recognized every moment. It's always here. So the lesson here is, Don't just admire the finger, rather, directly see the moon itself. Go beyond the pointers of spirituality and embody the spirituality which is beyond the language or the pointer itself. Thank you.